If you ever thought neighbor drama couldn't sink any lower, think again. Because nothing prepares you for the moment a sick child, struggling to breathe, becomes the target of a noise complaint. And not from just anyone, but from a woman who believes HOA rules outrank basic humanity. And in our story today, she chooses the absolute worst time to test that theory. It began late on a cloudy Thursday afternoon. I was in my living room, kneeling beside my 8-year-old son, Ethan. His small body trembled as his asthma attack worsened, each shallow gasp carving panic deeper into my heart. His inhaler had run low earlier, and while I waited for the urgent care line to call back, I cradled him, whispering reassurances I wasn't sure I believed. "Mom, I can't," he breathed, voice weak. "I know, sweetheart. Stay with me," I murmured, stroking his hair, praying the inhaler would hold him over just long enough. Suddenly, bang, bang, bang. Our front door rattled like someone was trying to break it down. Ethan flinched, clutching my shirt. My pulse spiked, but not from fear, from shock at who I already suspected it was. I opened the door a crack, and there she stood, Karen, arms crossed, face tight, eyes blazing with self-righteous fury. "Do you have any idea how loud you're being?" she snapped, looking past me like she owned the right to judge what existed inside my home. "This neighborhood has quiet hours. You can't just let your child scream and wail like that. Some of us are trying to live in peace." Her words echoed cold and cruel. For a heartbeat, I couldn't even respond. Ethan whimpered behind me, and instead of any hint of compassion, Karen rolled her eyes. "Yes, him," she said sharply. "Handle it, or I will call it in." "He can't breathe!" I finally shouted, voice breaking. "He's having a medical emergency." "And I'm having a neighborhood emergency," she shot back. "Your kid is disrupting the block. Control him." For a moment, the world just stopped. Time froze around the weight of her heartlessness. I grabbed Ethan, grabbed the keys, and rushed out, not sparing her another look. I didn't have time to waste. His chest was tightening, and every second mattered. As I ran to the car, I heard her voice again, the threat cutting through the air. "I warned you. I will report this." And she did. But she never imagined that at the hospital. Security would step in, and not for me. The drive to the hospital felt endless, even though it was only 7 minutes. Ethan's breathing turned into shallow, raspy gasps, each one slicing into me like a blade. I kept talking to him, begging him to stay awake, to hold on just a little longer. Every stoplight felt personal, like time itself was testing us. The moment we arrived, nurses rushed him to triage. Oxygen mask, IV, monitors, alarms, everything blurred into sterile chaos. I stood frozen, trying not to cry while doctors surrounded my little boy. A nurse squeezed my hand. "You got him here just in time." Relief hit me so hard my knees nearly buckled. But then, her voice, sharp, shrill, familiar. "There she is." I turned, and there she stood in all her entitled glory. Karen. In the hospital lobby, arms folded, lips pursed like someone had dared inconvenience royalty. "What are you doing here?" I snapped, disbelief clawing at my voice. "I followed you," she said matter-of-factly, as though stalking someone during a medical emergency made perfect sense. "I told the HOA, and now I'm informing hospital security. That child needs discipline, not—" She stopped talking only because 2 security officers approached, one already radioing something in. Another staff member stood behind them, clearly called in by the commotion. Karen pointed at me dramatically. "She's disturbing the neighborhood, causing a scene, and bringing it here." Her kid was screaming like an animal. Everyone heard it. "Don't you have rules about this?" The officers blinked at her, then at me. Ethan's monitors beeped in the background, his tiny body still fighting for air. "Ma'am," one guard said slowly, "that child is receiving emergency treatment." "Yes," she huffed, "because she failed to control him. And now she's disrupting this hospital." I stared in utter disbelief. Even the nurse beside me looked stunned. "You followed a mother of a medical emergency into a hospital to file a noise complaint?" the other guard repeated, eyebrows raised so high they nearly vanished into his hairline. "Yes," she insisted. "This is a quiet facility." One of the nurses stepped forward, calm voice, stone-cold authority. "Ma'am, that child is in respiratory distress. You will not harass our patients or their families." Karen opened her mouth again, and that's when security moved. "Ma'am, you need to leave now." Her face twisted, outrage flooding every inch of it. "You can't talk to me like—" "Yes, we can," the guard gestured. "You're trespassing." And just like that, for once in her life, Karen wasn't in control. Karen froze, her face shifting from outrage to stunned disbelief. It was like watching a statue crack. The self-importance, the entitlement, the certainty that rules bowed to her, all splintering at once. She sputtered, searching for the right combination of arrogance and denial to regain control. "I live in this community," she shrieked. I pay fees. I have rights. I will not be treated like— Ma'am, the guard's voice cut through. Her rant like a blade. Calm, final. This is a medical facility, not your HOA meeting. Gasps rippled through the waiting room. People whispered. Some just stared, stunned. A mother clutching her toddler shot Karen a glare so sharp it could cut steel. Karen's eyes darted wildly around the room, desperate for someone, anyone, to back her up. But every face was a wall. She looked tiny suddenly. Smaller than her voice, smaller than her outrage, smaller than the shadow of her own behavior. Security isn't going to remove me for trying to maintain order, she insisted, pointing at me again. She's the problem. Her child was screaming. The nurse stepped forward again. The one who had held my hand earlier. Compassion had melted from her expression, replaced with steely resolve. He was screaming because he couldn't breathe, she said firmly. Something you should have recognized as a human being. Karen's jaw dropped. That single sentence carried more weight than any argument. The nurse turned to security and nodded once. Escort her outside. If she refuses, call police. Silence fell. Then the guards flanked her, guiding her toward the door. Karen jerked her arm away dramatically. You're all insane, she yelled. This isn't over. Oh, it absolutely is, one guard muttered under his breath. The doors slid open and her voice drifted farther and farther until it vanished into the parking lot. Peace settled over the lobby like a warm blanket. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. A shaky voice broke the quiet behind me. You okay, sweetheart? It was a volunteer, older woman, soft eyes, kind smile. I nodded, though truthfully I wasn't sure. My body was present, but my heart was still in that room with Ethan. Minutes crawled by. The doors Karen had stormed out of remained still, mercifully silent. And then, finally, a doctor emerged. He's stable, she said, smiling gently. Your son is doing much better. You got him here just in time. My knees buckled. Relief washed over me in a tidal wave so powerful I nearly sobbed. But this was only the beginning. Because while Ethan recovered, Karen wasn't done. Not even close. Ethan's breathing steadied over the next few hours. The hiss of oxygen faded, the monitors softened, and color slowly returned to his cheeks. He squeezed my hand, whispering, Mom, I'm okay. And in that moment, every ounce of fear I'd felt melted into gratitude. But peace doesn't last long when you live next to someone like Karen. By the time we were discharged and returned home the next afternoon, a bright orange notice was taped to my front door. HOA letterhead, bold red stamp, noise violation, formal warning. I stared at it in disbelief. She actually filed it. A wave of anger surged through me. Not rage, but something colder, steadier. The kind born when someone crosses a line they never should have touched. I pulled out my phone, opened the hospital's portal, and downloaded every document. Diagnosis, oxygen logs, treatment notes, proof, all of it. Then I emailed the HOA board. Subject, formal response to false complaint. I attached the medical files, detailed the emergency, and ended with one short request. Please remove this violation and record this incident in your logs. This complaint endangered a child. Within 2 hours, they called. We are so sorry, the president said, voice tight. We had no idea. The board is voiding the complaint immediately. I expected closure, relief, maybe even peace. But then, the twist. He lowered his voice. Mrs. Karen also created a disturbance at the hospital. Security called us. She threatened staff and disrupted operations. That's a serious issue. Silence hung heavy. We're calling a disciplinary hearing, he continued. Actions have consequences. I thanked him, hung up, and glanced out the window, just in time to see Karen storming toward my house. Fury crackling off her like sparks. She rang the bell, hard, over and over. Ding, ding, ding. I stepped outside, phone already recording. You think you won? She hissed. You embarrassed me! You humiliated me! You did that yourself, I replied calmly. You followed a sick child to a hospital over a noise complaint. You endangered him. I was enforcing rules. You were enforcing your ego. For the first time since I'd known her, Karen didn't have a comeback. Her mouth moved, but no sound came. Then, the HOA president walked up the sidewalk. Karen, we need to talk now. Her face drained. Karma didn't knock. It arrived with witnesses. As she sputtered excuses, I closed my door gently behind me and returned to my son. Alive, safe, breathing. And outside, Karen finally learned. Some lines once crossed don't get uncrossed. If you felt even a little bit emotional during this story, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. It really helps us share more true justice stories like this.